So we've had the right people on the bus for a long time because they're the right culture. They fit. We love them. But there's been a handful of times where they've been on the wrong seat.
Welcome to Success Unleashed, Beyond the Job Site, the only podcast created to help contractors win in business and in life. Now your host, Gerrit Bake.
Welcome back to the Success Unleashed podcast. Again, I'm your host, Gerrit Bake. Really excited for you to be with us here today. We have another special guest. He's become a really good friend of mine, and I'm tell you right now, we'll share some stories, but got a heart of gold, willing to give you the shirt off his back. Just a really all-around good guy. And I didn't actually plan on doing this, but I do want to take a second on this. Listen, there's a lot of bad people and there's a lot of bad things happening in this world. You're going to find them everywhere. Contractors, outside of the contractor space, right? But there's also a lot of good people. And my challenge to you is not only to be a good person, but surround yourself with good people. There's plenty of work to go around. There's plenty of things you can do to build your business, build your life, but surround yourself with good people. It will make all the difference. Now, our guest, he is the owner of RGS Exteriors. In fact, he is a fourth generation owner. Was started by his great grandfather here in the Salt Lake area. Currently about 14 million in revenue, although I think they'll smash that this year. He's a father of 4 kids, married 25 years, and wait till you hear what he did to make sure that he celebrated his 25th anniversary. He is also a football and a wrestling coach. His son plays football in college. So he's very active. His kid's very active. But I want to introduce you to my friend, Tim Brown. Tim, welcome to the show.
Hey, appreciate you having me, and it's an honor and a privilege. Love doing this.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, I want to kind of get into it, right? Because you're in a unique situation. There's not a lot of contractors that have the opportunity to take over a family business, right? Most of the time what happens is the kids end up, deciding to do something else, or, dad decides to just close up shop or whatever. And here you are 4 generations into this, right? So my question to you kind of starting off is like, how did this become the thing for you that you wanted to do?
Well, so growing up, when I was working with my dad, my dad was an owner-operator, just literally was installing every day. And primarily at the time was gutters, mostly rain gutters. And when I was 14, he started putting me to work, and I'll never forget, he said, "Hey, I'm teaching you how to work, but I don't want you to do this for a living." I probably heard that 100 times from my dad.
Why do you think he said that?
Well, he wanted me to do better, right? To do better than what he did in perception, like air quotes, right? Because that's not the case, but that's the thought process. Is that, especially, I think my dad's generation was all taught, go to college, go to college, go to college. Don't work with your hands. Now, frankly, we're doing the opposite. We're telling the kids, yes, college is good, but learn a trade. That's the key. But that generation, that was the thought. So he was always like, hey, I'm going to teach you how to do this, but I don't want you to do it for a living. And I so many times heard that, thought that, went to college, got my degree, actually went to BYU and was in the Marriott School of Business, which, at the time, 2 or 3 people got rejected in the program. So it was hard to even get in the program, and really, really kind of a prestigious program. It was kind of a joke when I was in school and graduated. Everyone's like, "You're the most educated rain gutter installer there is. Why are you still doing this?" Kind of as a joke, like I'm either really stupid because I'm smart, or whatever it is. But anyway, had some real good opportunities. So when I graduated from college, some really good job offers, sort of in this industry, and just really kind of debated what to do. And my dad was really good about it. He's like, "I'm happy either way. Whatever you want to do." But we kind of put a plan together if I were to partner up with him, how that would look like and what it would look like. And so that's ultimately what I decided to do. And here we are. To kind of put it in perspective, you mentioned that we're on that 15 million mark. And when I partnered with my dad in 2001, something like that, we did about $300,000 in business that year. So we've grown a little bit. And that's kind of what it took for me to do this. My dad was happy and very successful and content with just kind of a mom pop running his own business, but installing every day. I didn't. That's not what I wanted. I liked installing. I liked learning that trade, but it's not what I wanted to do the rest of my life.
It's interesting that you bring that up, right? Because there's a huge distinction between the lifestyle business, right? And then a business that runs itself.
That's right.
And I was actually talking to a gentleman that owns a tree trimming company this morning. And he told me flat out, he goes, "Hey, I don't want to be like the big guys. I want to have my crew and do my jobs. And that's good enough for me, right?" And I don't, by the way, if you're listening or watching this, like understand there's nothing wrong with either path. If you want to have a lifestyle business, it pays your bills, you get to go on vacation, you pay for kids' college or school or whatever, and it makes you happy, cool, so be it, right? But the other side of the coin is also viable. You want to build a 10, 20, $50 million company, that's also a good thing. I think the key is exactly what you just said is, hey, I went in and we were doing about 300, but that's not what I wanted. And you were able to sit down with your dad and kind of build out a plan, I'm sure, to kind of take over the business. Now, let me ask you, 3 generations up to your dad, all lifestyle style or type business, right? They were doing enough to pay the bills and, maybe a little extra and happy, content. You came in, you had a business background, you went to school, right? And what were your thoughts when you saw dad working every single day? That's not what I want to do, but I do see potential inside of this. What was your ideas, or what were your ideas at that time?
If I look back 20, 30 years ago, whatever it was, like, let me be very clear. I never dreamed in my wildest dreams that it would be what it is. Mm-hmm. This is beyond my best imagination I could have ever had. Having said that, I think what I wanted is just to basically make a good living and basically be able to be in the office and not have to be out installing every day in the hot and the cold. That's just me. To me, that was, at the time, was all I wanted. Now my mindset's changed, my reality's changed, and I'm not even happy with where I'm at now. I want to continue to grow and continue to get better. A couple of years ago, I remember when we started going to conferences. I think that was kind of when I thought I wanted to be in the corporate world, it's because I wanted to go sit in the meetings, you see on TV, go in these corporate world, going to do these things. And when I decided to partner with my dad, I knew I was kind of putting that aside and not doing that. Well, then I started going to these conferences and events that I think we need to get to in a little bit, because that's one of our huge reasons why we are who we are. But when doing that, I'm like, okay, I can still have the best of both worlds. I can still kind of be in the corporate world and still do this because I'm merging it. Then fast forward 2 or 3 years ago, I started getting on the speaking circuit to the point where now I'm one of the guys up there presenting and doing these conferences. And I was on a panel with kind of my hero or my mentor in this industry. It was a window company in California, probably one of the biggest and best window companies in the country, frankly. When Charlie retired 2 years ago, he was a $50 million company, an extremely high net, like 20 plus net company. And I was on a panel with him, and somebody else actually made the comment on the panel like, hey, look, Ma, I made it. And I got me thinking, like, whoa, I'm on a panel with the legend. Like, I am on a stage with this guy. Okay, maybe I have reached some goals that I didn't know I could reach. And that was a pretty humbling experience to go, wow, okay. So I don't know if that answers your question. It sort of does. And we're actually, it's funny because we do think very similarly. We're going to go down that path, right? But this is what, again, the point I want to make, you didn't start off with ambition more than just not being out in the field. That's it.
That was right? It. But you made a comment about it changed.
For sure.
Right? It's changed various times over the years. So I think number one, and we'll get into, I'm sure, some more details. I think number one, the most important thing is whether it's 1 year, 5 year, 10 year, you have to have some kind of idea of where you want to take the business, right? Because if you don't, it becomes like the Dunkin' Donuts guy, right? You show up, you make the donuts, you go home, the next day you rinse and repeat, right? And you're like, hey, my great-grandfather, my grandfather, my father have all done that and been happy with it. That's not what I want. So I have to change, right? So the first thing that had happened was, okay, what does change look like? Okay. So you decided you didn't want to be in the field. Okay. What got you to that point of not having to be in the field?
Well, I think what got to that point was growing the business to the point where it could justify a salary of me being in the office. And really the way I did that for a lot of years when I first was partnered up with my dad was I was installing every day in the day, and then at night I'd work on the business. I'd work on plans or takeoffs to grow the business. I'd be calling contractors, calling on them, sending them emails, doing whatever it is to try to grow the business. And so it was kind of a combination of installing and growing. And that was really what it took at first. People think now, look and say, oh, you don't ever work, which I do. I still work plenty. But back then, a 70, 80-hour week was a normal week. It's just what it takes. Anybody that thinks that they can just come in and just have a well-run business, I think they're mistaken. It takes the grind. Now, is it a week? Is it a month? Is it 10 years or 20 years maybe? But there was a grind.
I think that's such a powerful statement, right? We all say we're grinders, and yet we all want to escape the grind.
Yeah.
And there is a period of time, and for everybody, it's slightly different, but you're going to have to grind. You're going to have to work hard. Like yesterday for me, I don't have them that often anymore, but it was an 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. I was out the door in meetings and workshops and all kinds of different things. And I got home and I was worn out, right? But guess what? I got to get up today and I got to do it again, right? We make it happen. And then when I got home, it wasn't like, oh, okay, it's quitting time. No, I'm working on the computer, trying to get these lead programs and whatnot put together. So it's going to take time. But what I think people need to realize is grinding for the sake of grinding is worthless. But grinding with a purpose makes sense, right? Yep. And that's exactly what you did. You said, okay, I want to be at this point where my company can afford a salary for me. That was step one. So what do I got to do? Well, I'm going to be installing during the day, but at night, what am I doing? I'm working on the business, right? Building connections, sending invoices, following up, doing the things that grow the business. Now, how long did it take before you got to that point where you didn't have to be in the field anymore?
It was probably a couple of years, truthfully. And then I think the next step after that was then getting another one, getting another employee in. And then it was another couple of years till we had another one. And our first kind of manager, who's still been with us and has been a dear friend for a long time, but Ross Fisher. And when Ross came in, then Ross was the next guy to come in as a salaried employee. And then, then one and after the other, and then, it kept snowballing. But we just did it slowly. And as we grew slowly, we added more office staff. And I think that's key. But it's just that grind. It's that start. It's that you got to work your tail off to get it to the point where it can get where you want it to be. And I think I actually one of my mentors that I love has said that I want you to make $1 million. $1 million, put any number you want in there, 100,000, 10 million, whatever you want. But the number isn't important. But I want you to make the money, not to have the money. But I want you to be a millionaire so that you can learn what it takes to become a millionaire, right? And so you think about that. Why do you want to be successful? Yes, you want to be successful. Yes, you want to pay the bills. Unfortunately, the world runs on money, so you have to have money. But just pretend for a minute it didn't. What does it matter? It's what you learn and how you grow and who you become along that journey. And I think if I look back, I'm proud of who I become. Do I still have work to do? Absolutely. But I've gotten there, and I'm continually getting there every day and working on it every day. Now, not only do I work on the business, but I work on me. We can talk about it again in a minute, maybe some of the masterminds and the conferences I go to, but I also have a mindset coach, and I'm in a mindset mastermind where we meet twice a week, that I work on me and my head, the 6 inches between my ears. And that's probably when I saw some of the real growth over the last couple of years, was when I finally made that switch internally that I wasn't, one, it's okay to make money, and two, how, and then three, now it's not just about you making money, but it's the company and your employees and all of your employees. And I think when you get to that switch, when you want your employees to be as successful and you want them to be millionaires themselves, that's when the real switch is. And I'm working on it. I'm not there yet, but we're getting there.
That's huge. Well, I was actually going to ask that, and I'm glad you went down that path. At the beginning, when you first took over and you'd set this target of, hey, I don't want to work in the business anymore. I want to just be in the office and continue to grow it that way. Where was your mindset at that point?
I think, truthfully, I mean, it's hard to remember that long ago, but I think I was just in the grind and just happy to just pay the bills and do that. Where my mindset was, I don't know. I don't remember for sure, but I think I was probably just content with where I was at. And then the more I learned and the more I worked, the more my mind opened up to more opportunities. I think I will tell you though, for years and years and years, worked hard, somewhat successful, but then I remember laying at night, almost every night, stressing about money and payroll. How am I going to pay payroll? We've always done payroll once a week, right, wrong, or different. That's something that maybe sets our company apart from a lot, is that we pay every week. I'll give my dad that credit. That's something he started, and I think employees love it. I think it's how we've attracted some employees, by the way, is paying them every week, not every 2 weeks. But that's hard, that Monday morning payroll is always, that weekend sometimes was stressful. Sunday was supposed to be a nice, relaxing day, and it was until it wasn't. About 7 or 8 o'clock, you get that anxiety of, oh my gosh, how am I going to pay the bills in the morning? How am I going to write all these checks? And it was like that for years. Even when we were doing well, it was always still flow was always hard. And I think finally we got to the point where it's no longer an issue. And man, that's when I'm having fun and I'm enjoying life. When there's enough money in the bank for that emergency and we can pay the bills, then it's like, okay, now I can relax and enjoy life. But how long did it take? Years.
Yeah. And I think that's key. I came across this quote the other day, and basically it said, the pain stays until it teaches you the lesson that you need to learn. And a lot of people interpret that as being like physical pain, which I can understand, but I think it's so much more the pain, including the stress, the anxiety, right? The worry that comes with business, that comes with relationship, that comes with being a parent, right? All these different aspects of life, that pain remains. And, I started to look back at my life and realize that like, there have been periods where I've been in some major pain. Some of it, of course, was self-inflicted, right? But there was major pain. And I realized that pain didn't go away because I wanted it to. It didn't go away because somebody took it away. It went away because I learned the lesson that I need to learn, right? And I'd love that you brought up this example about cash flow. Every single day, I talk to contractors who have cash flow issues. Every single day. And are there things that you can do to mitigate it? Yes. But that doesn't mean that your cash flow issues will go away. And I'd love for you to kind of explain like your switch in mentality from I have cash flow issues to having cash flow issues is just part of me stepping up as the owner of this business and knowing that every single week in your case, you got to figure it out.
Well, so two things. Let me first thing answer your question, then I want to come back a little bit. The answer to your question is I don't think I learned it. I don't think I did until we had the money in the bank. And then it was like, oh, duh. But it took so much long. So I don't know that I learned it. I wish I would have, but I don't know that I ever learned that. But to answer to comment on the pain that we need to fill that, like, I don't want to get off on a religious tangent, but religion is very important to me personally. And I'm going to tell you that, and I'm not ashamed of saying it, that we go through those trials and tribulations to make us better. It's the refiner's fire. God, Jesus Christ, whoever you believe in, whatever your higher power is going to do that to teach you to become a better person. And at the time when we're going through a trial, it's like, oh my gosh, this trial is never going to end. How am I going to get through it? Then you look back and go, duh, look what I learned. And so I think those trials, those refiner fires in business, in personal, in church, they're all for the good, and we all learn to get better for it.
Yeah, 100%.
Now, but the key, as I think, is recognizing it. And when you're in that trial, recognizing, okay, what do I need to learn here? Now, whether it's a religious trial, a spiritual trial, or whether it's a work trial, okay, I'm going through this. What do I need to learn? Learn it quickly, fix it, and then you can move on and become better for it.
Yeah, agreed. 100%. Let me ask you, since we're talking a little bit about pain and struggles and trials right now, what's been the biggest struggle that you've had since you took over the business?
Oh, I think there's no question. It's cash flow. But once that's fixed, which we got that fixed, I think the next thing is getting the right people on the right seat on the bus. I felt like for years. Now let me be very clear. My executive team and then my next level managers and then my sales team and my office staff and the installers are the best of the best of the best. We have the most amazing team. Why is RGS successful? Why do we do well? Because we have amazing talent. Every single person is amazing in our company. But it took some time to get there, A. But B, I think even within the company, we've had the absolute guys or gals on our team that we wanted on our team. We're a big culture in our company. Culture means more to us than task managers, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So we've had the right people on the bus for a long time because they're the right culture. They fit. We love them. But there's been a handful of times where they've been on the wrong seat. And it took a few years to find a seat for them. They were so valuable to us and to our culture that we wanted to keep them, but they were not on the right seat. So I think that would maybe answer your question. Maybe the next hardest thing and thing we had to overcome was get the right people on the right seats. And I think we've got that. I think we're there now. And it's such a blessing. I'm so grateful and honored to be able to have the team that we have running the business because now we all work towards it together. We have one common goal.
I love that you said that. I was listening to a podcast earlier this week, and they were talking about A-level talent, right? Top talent. And I can't remember the gentleman that was talking about this, but he said that A-level talent will outperform B, C level talent every single day, sometimes by a multiple of 10. And so the conversation was around compensation, right? How much do you pay A-level talent? Well, you went through this for a few years, so I'd love to get your opinion on it. But if you're willing to pay extra for the right person, right, you're actually not losing money. You're actually making money. And you're not losing time, you're gaining time.
I think, so I agree with you. My simple advice to anybody would be overpay. Okay. Overpay. If they're worth $100 an hour, pay them $105. If they're worth 20, pay them 30. Because by overpaying, they're going to stay happy and you're going to keep them. Having said that, for years, going back to the cash flow issues, we had some really good key players that I wanted. And money was such a stress for me. So I pushed them so hard and tried to get them to, so that they could make a living that they deserve to make. But the company's foundation or base pieces couldn't afford it, if that makes sense. So basically, we were paying them what they were worth and what they deserved. But in order to justify it, basically I pushed them and made them work so many hours not because I didn't like them or I needed them to do it so that we could afford them. Mm-hmm. And that was a big stress for a long time. And so I think we finally got the financials in place so that that's no longer an issue. But again, that took some time. Yep. But I think in the simple answer to that, this is really stupid, but it's really simple, is charge the right price. You got to charge more.
We were going to go there, but yes.
Yeah, you have
100%.
to charge more. And we've always been kind of on the higher side anyway, kind of the middle. I like the analogy of the three bears. You can't be too low, you cold. You can't be too hot or too high, but you can be just right in the middle. Well, we've always were in the upper middle. And that was good, and we were successful at that. But to really pay the talent and to keep the talent and to get the right culture, you have to be on the higher end. Mm-hmm. It's got to be on that almost too hot side. And it's just what it takes. And some people just aren't willing to do it, and we weren't for a long time. But once we finally made that decision that we have to charge this, but it's because our customers deserve it. Our contractors and customers deserve to be charged this price because why? They're going to get a much better product in the end.
100%.
Now my team, from the installers to the guys that sell the job to the guys that are producing it and managing it, everybody wants the absolute best, perfect job for the contractor or the homeowner, and we deliver that. But it costs money, and so if a contractor out there wants and just cares about price, that's okay. It's just not us. We're not a fit. They're not a fit for us, and we're not a fit for them. And so we tend to attract contractors that price isn't as much as important to them because they care more about quality and service. And the homeowners that we service, they care about that. And we give them an unbelievable experience. But it took some time, right? It took some time to get there. And maybe it had the guts to just do it. I used to be so worried about raising our prices. So worried about it. And now it is what it is. The price is the price. It doesn't matter. The price is completely irrelevant. The price is what it is.
The price is irrelevant when value outweighs it.
And for us, that's all we care about. Now, some of your listeners, some of the guys you work with, that's not the case. And that's okay. Again, going back to my dad and my story, there's nothing wrong. My dad was very happy and very successful, and there was nothing wrong with what he did. But it's not what I wanted, right? Well, same thing on contractors. There's nothing wrong with being a lower end, high volume guy. If that's what you want and that's what you like, do it. Do you. This is not me.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other thing I learned throughout the years is to do high volume, low price, you're one job going south away from being in real trouble. And there's so much risk and so much liability that high quality or high volume, low price just is not. worth it to me. It's not the game or the path I want to travel on anymore. I did for a long time. And I think there's a time and a place. As you're growing and as you're trying to get infrastructure, as you're trying to get assets and whether assets are the people or the equipment or a combination thereof, there might be a time and a place for volume to try to get some of that money and to be able to build that up. But at the end of the day, you never win with volume.
Yeah.
That was a really long answer to your
No, but it was good. It was really good. I liked it. I want to switch gears a little bit and kind of go back to, I think, a subject that people don't spend enough time talking about, and that's mindset, right? So we talked a little bit about your mindset. What we didn't talk about is the gap in between where you were to, I have a mindset coach, I have a mindset mastermind, like I have all these things that I'm working on multiple times a week type thing. Before I get to the question though, I do want to ask a dollar amount and I'll reveal mine. I didn't understand mindset for many years, right? I just said, well, I show up and off we go. Stress, fear, anxiety, like all those feelings and emotions swirling around in the head, affecting performance, affecting relationships, affecting everything, right? Self-worth. And it wasn't until, I'm going to say probably 8 years ago that I got serious about my own personal development, right? My own mindset, my own stories that I had in my head. And over the years, so the last 8 years or so, I think I've invested close to $350,000 or $400,000 in my own personal development, right? Now, I don't say that number to brag because it's not a number to brag about. But what I'm saying is it wasn't until I started investing in me that my life changed, that my business changed, that my relationships changed. I want to go back to you. And yes, you had the mindset that you want to be successful, right? And then where you are today. What was that process like for you? And then estimating, what do you think that you've invested in your own personal growth?
Well, I'll give you the number. I can just tell you, not only just me and my employees, but 1% of our, which doesn't sound like a lot, but 1 to 2% of our annual sales or production, however you want to look at it, goes in training for internally. So run the numbers for us. We're going to spend anywhere from $200,000 to $300,000 this year on development within our company. Now that's training, that's conferences. No, not just me, right? But my team. So the dollar amount for us is 1 to 2% of our income goes to personal development and making us better. I think that's really key and really important. But to me and my journey, I used to think that mindset work was woo-hooey and cheesy and so stupid. When The Secret came out, the movie The Secret, I watched it and I thought it was cool, but I'm like, so dumb. Why? And to give you an example on that, one of the examples in the movie The Secret, if you remember that movie, is they talked about that if you're going to the grocery store or the mall or whatever, you throw it out in your mind that I'm going to get a front parking space, and you drive to the front and you get a front parking space. Now, do I truly believe that if you throw it out there in the universe that you're going to get a front parking space, that you're going to get a front parking space? No. But how many people go to the front or just go to the back and assume there's no front parking space? Right? I'll give you an example. My wife and I went to a bunch of the Utah Valley Parade of Homes yesterday, and we're driving around, and literally people are parked forever back. I'm like, well, there's got to be a close up front. We drove front. I'm not kidding you. Every single parking job I got right in front of the house. Every one. And there was a space every time. It's not that I threw it out in Woohoo Universe and I didn't manifest it, but my mindset is there's going to be a spot there because no one else goes there. So I went and I got a spot. So how does that apply to business? It's a little cheesy, I get that, but it gives you the idea of when you learn to control your mind and you learn what your mind can do, it is unstoppable. And we aren't even touching this much of our minds. And when we can learn that and grow that and develop that and become better, wow. I'm very, very fortunate. My mentor and my mindset coach is, he's here in Utah, which I'm so grateful for. His name's Sean Foyer. He runs a group called Inner Blueprint right now. He used to run on Think into Results from Bob Proctor. When Bob Proctor was one of the gentlemen in The Secret. That's kind of what our training's based on. But Sean was a very successful siding contractor. In fact, the reason why we didn't do siding for years is because Sean and his dad owned a company called Norton's. If go back to the day, some of the listeners may remember Norton's was a very big siding and window company. Long story short, they sold the business. They got out of the business. They both went in other directions. And then Sean realized that there was a need for this. And so he went from a siding contractor to an insurance salesman to a business coach in the contracting world, kind of like what you do, to now just mindset, and that's all he does. And now he's got more business than he can ever imagine and helping a lot of guys like us. And so I think little things like that, the journey. Again, it's a long answer to your question, but I don't know that I even understood the value and how important it was till really 2 years ago. I think it was that long. I think I went through my day. Now, I always believed in the training and the conferences and the masterminds, and I always put the money investing into me and my team, but I never truly understood what mindset is or does till probably 2 years ago.
That's so true, and I love that you shared that. Here's the really interesting part, right? If you look at it from an outsider's perspective, and this was the big shift for me. I went to a company called Landmark, and that was my intro into mindset and learning more about myself, self-development type activities. And the gentleman that was running this forum, this group, had a whiteboard, right? And he drew this big circle on the board, right? And he made this little triangle, and he said, here's what you know, right? Which is 5-7%. And then he drew another piece of the pie, another 5 to 7%. Here's what you don't know. And then in the rest of the circle, which was the majority of the circle, he wrote, here's what you don't know that you don't know, right? Yeah. And it's this weird mindset shift of understanding that, like, you're capable of so much more, not because I'm telling you are, but once you unlock your mind, you'll see that you are, and you'll prove that you are, right? Because you're always going to find what you're looking for. If you're looking for what's wrong in your business, you're going to find it. If you're looking for what's right, you're going to find it. If you're looking for opportunity, you're going to find it. If you're looking for reasons that you're going to fail, you're going to find it.
So key, and I love everything you just said. You're dead on. I think one thing that, to your credit, that you do with your consulting business with us contractors and things I've learned along my journey is you said it. You don't know what you don't know. And so your job as a business consultant in the contracting world is to teach people what they don't know. Show them, look, this is what you're missing out on. And it's so fun. And this is why I love to just do this as kind of more on the volunteer side. I love to tell somebody something. You see the light switch go and they go, oh, I didn't even ever think about that. Oh my gosh, this is going to make a huge impact on my business. That small little nugget that they got was like, wow. And it's so fun to see that. And I think you don't know what you don't know. So it's so important to educate yourself. It's so important to learn. It's so important to continue to do those things. Go back and everything I've learned a long time ago is now that we go to these conferences and now that I'm kind of on the speaking circuit, if you will, and these things are happening, I'm not the guy anymore in the room that is sitting there going, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do, sitting there drinking from a fire hose like I used to. However, I still learn something at every conference, at every session. When I met you, I didn't necessarily need to go to that meeting, but I went. Why? Because I wanted to learn. That's how we met, and I'm super grateful that I did. But why do I do all those things? Because there's always something I'm going to learn. When you're the smartest guy in the room, you're really not. You just think you are. And that's when you need to check yourself.
Right.
When you realize that you know, or when you think you know more than anybody in the room, it's time to get out of the business because you're not going to learn. You will always, if you're open and willing, you will always learn something.
Yeah.
Also, too, the other advice I'd give to anybody is if you go to a conference or a presenter that you've already heard before or this exact same conference, whatever it is, and you go, oh, I'm not going to go this year. I went to it last year and it's the same speakers. It's the same thing. So what? Your mindset is different today than it will be tomorrow, than it was a year ago. And so you could hear the exact same thing presented the exact same way, and you're going to get something different out of it today than you did yesterday. Why? Because your mindset is different. Go back to the religious thing again. Scriptures. Why do we read the scriptures every day? You know the Bible, in my case also the Book of Mormon, whatever it is, you know it. You've read it 100 times. Why would you keep reading it? You're not going to learn anything new, or are you? You could literally read the exact same verse in a scripture, and it's going to mean different to you today than it will yesterday, and vice versa. Same thing. And why? Because your mindset's different. So I don't know if that answers your question.
It does. It does. And I actually want to follow that up a little bit more. Let's get like a little more tactical and practical.
Okay.
You're a contractor. You're doing, let's just call it between 500 and $1 million. So you're not in struggle mode anymore. You're starting to grow. You're still wearing all the hats though. So you're starting to figure out how to build a team. You're trying to implement processes, right? All of these moving parts. If you were in that situation again, where would you start? Like, what would be the first thing that you would tackle?
So the first thing I would do, I would hire a right-hand person. And whatever that you needed, whatever you were lacking, whether it's production, whether it's sales, whether it's administration, whatever it is I'd hire somebody. Now, you might think, I can't afford it. I can barely afford my salary. You can't afford not to. Right? And so once you get somebody to do those other tasks that you're not good at, then you can focus on working on the business and not in it. And I think that would be the other thing I would do is I would try to get out of the business as quickly as possible. When you can work on the business and not in it, that's when the magic and the growth really happens. Now, that time's different for everybody, but the sooner you can do it, the quicker you'll just start making more money.
Beautiful. I love that. It's that not that you can't afford it. You can't afford not to do it.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I love it. Okay. A couple questions I really wanted to ask you, right? So you've got 4 kids, you got sons that are helping you in the business during the summertime. Just out of curiosity, like, do you want them to carry on the family tradition? Is that something you're kind of pushing them to? Is this kind of like an option for them? Where are you at with that?
So 100% don't care either way. Happy either way. I just want my kids to be happy on their journey, whatever that looks like. I'd be lying to you if I didn't tell you that I've got PE calling me almost on a daily basis. Private equity. Our company's finally to that point where we're very viable, I guess you could say, and I'm getting legitimate calls every day, and I'm turning them away every day. Part of it's because of that. I don't know if my kids want to be in it or not, and I want to give them the opportunity. I want them to get through college and make that decision, and then kind of see what that leads them. But it's interesting because I think an important part too is I've got a very good executive team, and it wouldn't be fair for them to have the boss's kid come in and take over the business either. It wouldn't be fair to them because they've been on this journey and they've deserved it and they've worked hard and they've earned what they've gotten. And so that's the other thing you got to take into consideration too. How do you integrate a kid coming in with your established executive team already?
Yeah.
And so that's a really long answer to your question of I don't know.
Well, I like it.
But I will say, whatever it is, I'm grateful for it. I think one of the opportunities that we do have, there's one son has absolutely showed interest. My oldest has absolutely showed interest in it. The other ones maybe not as much. But the beauty about him and the thoughts that we've had is that we start a new division in a new city. Giving an example, he's playing football and going to school down at Southern Utah University in Cedar City. Well, when he gets done in a couple of years, that might be an opportunity. Here's an opportunity for him to get in the business, to not step on any of my guys' toes, right, that are running the company. But here, we'll just start a division here in Southern Utah, and let's see how you do down here. Mm-hmm. And there's those opportunities.
Yeah, I like it.
We'll see.
Fair enough. All right, another question, because I don't think we actually talked about this. We talked about revenue, right? But we've mentioned before, off camera, revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, cash is king. At the end of the day, the only thing that matters is what's left over in your bank account. You have learned your numbers. You drill down on your numbers all the time because we talk about this, right? But it's that fearless dedication to those numbers that has allowed you to do some of the things that you've done, right?
Yep.
So kind of another two-part question. First of all, how long did it take you for you to get really serious about your numbers? And then second of all, what has that allowed you to do, right? Some of the things that you've done, we talked about, Africa, Alaska, some other things, but what has that dedication to knowing your numbers and being religious to executing on that allowed you to do?
Yeah, so really good question. And I think it's a kind of a two-part answer. The first thing is I was always since day one, been extremely diligent on my numbers. I've always ran the business on the numbers. Always. Didn't matter what was in the checking account. That was irrelevant. What mattered was the numbers. Since 2005, I was able to to join an organization called Certified Contractors Network. Now, for those of us that do new construction, it wouldn't apply. But those that do remodels and rework, it 100% applies. And we joined that group in 2005. And one thing I really learned is went to a business planning boot camp by an amazing man, Charlie Gindell. That same guy earlier that I was talking about that owned the window company. He ran a business planning boot camp out of his office. And it was all on a pro forma budget. And that pro forma budget is how I run that's the Bible of my business.
Talk about, for those that don't know, what is a pro forma budget?
So our pro forma budget is really just all of our expenses. So we have our COGS, or our cost of goods sold, which is our labor and our material, and our gross profit, which is everything else to pay for all of our overhead. And then in my overhead is broken up into a couple of things. My general administration overhead, which is my office, my building, some of the salaries, and then my production overhead, which is my gas, my trailers, my equipment, tools, and those types of things. Then we have our marketing expenses, how we market the business. And then the fourth would be our sales department and our sales commissions. So our pro forma budget has all those broken down on, this is our budget, this is what we should spend versus our actuals. And then, so what I've done since day one is every month I get my financials and our QuickBooks and pull it up or whatever it is and look at actual versus budget and where are we on track or are we off track. So the pro forma budget's my Bible. I live in that every day. That's the thing that matters the most. So now I know my numbers, and I've known my numbers since day one. The problem was we weren't super profitable. And we made a good living and we paid our wages, but we never had anything on the bottom line. And, going back to these conferences and stuff, I used to always have this envious of these guys on stage that would always talk about 5, 10, 15, $20 million companies. And I go, man, how would it be to be a $10 million company? Are you kidding? If only we could be a $10 million company. Oh my gosh, we'd make so much money. Well, guess what? When you're a $10 million company, if you're running the same margins as you were at $1 million, your problems just got bigger. They didn't go away. You're never going to outsell a problem. Ever.
That's a powerful statement right there. You're never going to outsell your problems.
It's never going to happen. So now it can help, right? But going back to the whole profit for vanity type of a thing, I wanted to beat up my chest and go, look at me, I'm a $10 million company. Who flipping cares? Mm-hmm. That's all for show. I don't listen to any of those guys. Any of the guys on the stage, and when they talk about some of their numbers, sometimes I'm like, yeah, what's the bottom line? Because that's what matters. I want to see your net profit, because that is matter. A guy doing $10 million a year that has a 5% profit, or a guy doing $5 million a year with a 20% profit. I'm going to take the $5 million guy 100 times. He has less stress. He has less problems. He has less overhead. He has less headaches, less risk, and he's making way more money in his bottom line. So again, kind of going off a tangent a little bit, but to answer your question, always do my numbers. Felt like I did extremely well that way. Was educated, understood what I was doing, but I never understood that bottom line is what mattered. That net profit, that is the thing you got to focus on. And when we made that switch, which by the way was about 3 years ago, that's when all the magic happened. That's when it was like, okay, I'm not just making wages anymore. Now I'm making money. Now I can invest back in the company. Now I can do fun things for me and my family and for our employees and their families. But that took some time.
Wow, that's such a great answer, and I love how you explained it. Now, because I know, I'm going to go a little more into specifics. I think one of the unique things that you do is, we can call it fun, we can call it experience, whatever you want to call it, but you're not just investing in you, right? It's taking your team to conferences back east. It's even when you hire somebody new and saying, okay, what do I need to put in front of this person to give them the greatest chance to succeed, right? And you're actively involved in all that stuff. But you're also making sure that you're investing in what matters most, which is you and your family. So, well, just for fun's sake, right? Apparently you now have an attraction to a certain continent in this world.
Yes.
So talk about your last trip. What was that all about?
Yeah. So first answer, I'll come back to that. First thing to your point is that we invest in employees. Just give you an example. Right now, I have 2 salesmen in Baltimore for training right now. Like they're a week. That trip's going to cost us probably $7,000 or $8,000, but we're doing it because it's for them and for the company. So 100%, we're always training them. Now back to, and this nice mustache here that my wife absolutely loves, wants me to keep. Not really. She hates it, but I was in South Africa. In Africa, I've been home for a week and a half, and that's just kind of when you go there. That's kind of what you do. Is everybody they wear short Daisy Duke shorts, the dudes, and mustaches. It's just kind of what you have. And you don't say dudes. I actually said something to one of the guys. I'm like, man, he's a good dude. He's like, don't say that. A dude to them does not mean the same as a dude to us.
Oh, all right.
But anyway, no. But I love South Africa. Is something that there's just something special about that place. I go every year. I love it. I had the opportunity to bring my son on the last one. And depending on which side of the aisle you're on, I was either on safari or I was hunting. So you decide which side of the aisle you're on, and that's what I was doing. But it's amazing. And yes, I'm able to do that. I'm able to financially afford it. I'm able to be away from my business for the 2 weeks and not even miss a beat. I love that. We talked about my anniversary. It was my wife and I's 25th anniversary 2 weeks ago, and I was in Africa during that time. So our compromise, and it was the right thing to do for her, but I said, look, this is the only time I can go to take our son Caden. What do you want me? She's like, I don't care. She's like, as long as we do something for our anniversary before. So the week before, we were on essentially a 9-day cruise to Alaska. So I literally was on a cruise. I don't remember what day we got home. I think we flew home on a Friday, and I was home at like 2:00 on Friday, and Saturday morning at 9 a.m. I was on a flight to South Africa. So I was essentially gone for 3.5 weeks. And actually, and then the bookends of that trip, I was at a conference in Philadelphia, home for a day, then did that, and then I was home for Sunday, and then I flew out again Monday for a marketing conference. So I've been out of my office for about 6 weeks between all of these trips, and nothing skipped a beat.
Nothing skipped a beat.
And it doesn't. And it's something about me, and it's something about that I'm good. It's that we've going back to all the things we've talked about: hired the right team, put them in the right place. We haven't even talked about it, but we run our company on a product called EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System. It's if you're not familiar with it, call me. I'll explain it. But it's the best thing you could ever run your business on. But because it's on EOS, I just log into our 90 software and I look at our to-dos and our issues and our rocks while I'm away. I can literally spend 5 minutes, see what's been done, see what we're getting done, see the notes, and I don't even have to be in the office because I'm able to see what's going on. And so for 6 weeks, I've been able to do that and not even skip a beat. In fact, has nothing to do with me, but in May, I'm not sure when this will go out, but we're in the middle of June, but we just finished out May with our best sales by almost double ever. And so, I was gone the whole month of May and we had our best month. So it didn't matter if I was there or not. We had a record month.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And yeah, we didn't really talk about it, but yeah, obviously, it's important to have business structure, organization and whatnot. And as Tim said, yeah, you can reach out to him. Obviously, we do the same thing, right? We put that business instruction organization into place, and we run a version of EOS. I call it the contractor version. It's a little more simplified and easy to understand, but
well, and I think it's important. Let me talk about that for a second because I think it's really important. It's something that you do, that you have such a good niche, and you're helping these guys that are maybe on, I don't say this negative, so I hope listeners aren't taking it this way, but on a more basic level, right, and getting them to understand the basic principles. So in that regard, EOS itself might be a little too much, right? But what you do in your EOS Lite, as I would call it, and they actually call it EOS Lite in the industry, the EOS Lite version of that is so key. And the things that you can help them and that you can teach is so impactful. But having that structure, whatever it is, EOS, whatever it is, having that structure to run the business on is just so key. And the thing is that EOS teaches, I think that is so powerful, is accountability.
Yep.
And so your managers are, and my management team is paid bonuses on KPIs and on what they get done through our EOS program and through the platform. So they're going back to pay high. In a perfect world, one thing I would do is I'd actually pay a lower salary. I know that sounds backwards because I just said overpay, but have it be performance-based. Pay a lower wage, a lower salary, but bonus extremely heavy. In fact, some say that 75%, in other words, if they're getting 100%, if they're getting $100, pay 25 as a base and 75 on bonuses, because then that way they're really bought in. And if it works, then you can really structure it. Now that's hard to do. And we don't do that. I would love to say we did that. We don't. But if I would have had it all over again, I'd probably do that.
Yeah.
I'd pay a much lower salary and an extremely high, like a really, really high, where they can really, if they push it, they can really make some serious money.
Yeah, very true. Okay, so the fun question, you're starting over again.
Yeah.
You got $1,000 in your pocket. What are you doing with it?
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm cheated a little bit because I've listened to your podcast and I know you've asked it, so I have thought about it. But it was funny because the first time I heard you on it, I'm like, what would I say? And then after the third or fourth one I've heard you, it hasn't changed. I mentioned a lot of time throughout this whole podcast about invest in yourself, invest in your team, go to conferences, be involved in masterminds. If I had $1,000, that's what I would do. I would go to a conference, I would hire a business coach, or I'd go to be involved in a mastermind. Whatever you do, that's what I would do. And you're like, well, why? Then you can't do anything. You do that, you're going to go to a conference and you're going to get one nugget. You're going to get one relationship. Mm-hmm. You're going to have somebody that's been there and done that. The reason why I go to all these conferences, and I go to a lot, I mean, to give you an idea, I think I've flown 35 times so far this year. So
already diamond status, right?
So I hit diamond a long time ago for the year already. So yes. But why? Why do I do it? It's because so I can learn, and I'm going to get a nugget from somebody, and I'm going to network with somebody else. So if I only had $1,000, I'd figure it out and I'd go to a conference. Whatever that is and whatever works for you, go to the best conference in your specific industry and go rub shoulders with those people. You're going to make connections, you're going to learn, and you're going to do things to learn to get rid of that curve. Again, why do I go to conferences? Those that are watching, you'll be able to see this, but look, you've got a graph here, and you're here, and you want to get to here. The closest and easiest way between 2 points is a straight line, right? Well, the problem is none of us work like that. How do we work? Right? To get to here. But if we can shorten that curve, so instead of going like this, if we can go like this, that is the key. And going to conferences, getting a business coach, joining a mastermind, that's how you shorten that wavelength, and that's how you shorten the curve, and that's the key. So answer your question, what I would do, go to a conference, meet people, network, hire a business coach, and not necessarily in that order, but whatever works for you. And I think sometimes people are afraid to hire a business coach and they don't want to spend that money. Hire the business coach. Hire Gerrit. Go do these things, because why? You're going to shorten that learning curve. And if you can shorten that learning curve, you make money quicker, faster. And your life is so much better. Look, I have a wonderful life. It's taken a long time, and I had a lot of stressful nights. I don't have those anymore. I still have stress, don't get me wrong, but it's a different stress. But life is so much happier. I can go to Africa and I can spend 2 weeks and not even think 2 seconds about it. And I'm going to Lake Powell next week. So I'm home for a week and I'm at Lake Powell next week. Well, why? Because I can. The other thing too is it's not that I don't work, because when I'm on these conferences, I still work, but I work when I want, how I want, and with who I want. And I think that's the key. I still put my time in, but it's when I want to.
You're in control.
I control it.
That's awesome. Well, Tim, I appreciate you making it to the show today and sharing your nuggets of knowledge. Again, Tim, out of the goodness of his heart, and I mentioned this at the beginning, if you want to pick his brain about something, he's more than willing to do it, although you may have to travel to Africa or Lake Powell or Cleveland, Ohio to see him. But the point is that there's good people out there that are willing to help you out. Go find those good people. And then when you do get a knowledge, pass it on, right? Become a good person that does the same thing for the people behind you.
Yeah, and let me just really quick, I know we're wrapping up, but what you just said is key. First of all, anybody can call me anytime. Call me anytime. I will make time for you. I don't care if I'm in Africa. I'll take the phone call. I will. But why? Because people helped me when I needed it, and so it's my obligation. It's my opportunity, and it's my obligation. I mean, I've talked with you a little bit. I want to help you out with your venture. Why? Because it's my opportunity, and it's my obligation to help, because I've been helped. I'm in now a position where I can help, so it's I want to. And honestly, I love to do it. And I also feel like that my team runs the business so that I can do these things. So now again, I owe the industry this so that I can help others.
Wonderful. Again, You heard it straight from as they say, the horse's mouth, right? You heard it straight from Tim. Be that guy, right? Be willing to be humble enough to ask for help or advice or whatever it is that you need. But also, when you're in that position to help someone else out and they ask for help, be willing to help them out, right? Always be willing to do that. As Tim said at the beginning, or I should say here at the end, if you got to do anything today, right? 1, get clear on where you want to go. And 2, invest in the thing that will get you there. Whether that's hire a right-hand person, whether that's go to a conference, whether that's hire a business coach, whatever the thing is, get clear on where you want to go and what's the thing that's going to help you get there the fastest. Invest in that. All right. You know what time it is. It's time for you to get after it. 3, 2, 1. Off you go. Thanks for listening to the Success Unleashed podcast. Before we go, show some love for your favorite podcast by liking, subscribing, and leaving us a review. Until we see you again, it's time to get after it. 3, 2, 1, off you go.